In April 2016, I drove down to San Diego to meet some Protea growers and to see their farms and to see how they grow Proteas and also to see some beautiful Proteas. While I was down there, I ran into a plant I'd never seen before, Telopea Speciosissima, or also known as the waratah. As you can see from my reaction in 2016, I was pretty blown away by this plant. Unbelievable, these flowers.
Yeah.
You weren't kidding when you were saying how beautiful they are. Are these the only ones on the property?
Yeah.
Just these three?
These ones, yeah, because I didn't plant more because we didn't have more.
The Telopea right there. When I got back home, I decided I had to have this plant. I couldn't find any for sale, so I ordered some seeds from Australia where they grow naturally. And by December 2016, I had some plants growing. They're actually fairly easy to germinate and grow. Here in this picture, the two plants on the left are Telopeas, and the plants on the right are Hackia victoria. So now it's been about 4 years since I've got these plants growing. Let's see how the plants are doing today. Here are 4 Telopeas that I grew from seed. This is Telopea Speciosissima, and these plants are 4.5 years old. The word Telopea is a Greek word telopos, which means the most beautiful plant seen from afar. These plants are also called waratah, which is an Aboriginal word for beautiful. These plants are fairly easy to grow, but they're also on the finicky side and slow growing. As you can see, the one on the far right is only 1.5 feet tall after 4 years. Initially, one of the plants that I grew, I put in the ground, and it was in full sun, and it promptly died about a month later. And I later learned that these plants in warm climates do not tolerate full sun. They need to have some dappled shade. So in terms of growing these plants, what I've been doing is putting them in full sun in the winter, but in the summer I give them full sun up to about noon, and then from then on they're in shade. Another option would be to put them in under a tree where they get some dappled sun. These plants do not tolerate phosphorus, so I've been just using compost to fertilize them. In the wild, they can get up to 12 feet tall, so they can get to be pretty large. Here's a close-up of what the leaves look like. This plant has some nice green leaves with not much leaf damage. Here's another plant, and it's fairly common to get this brown leaf damage. I don't know what it's from, but it just happens on these plants. These plants go pretty much dormant in the winter, and then in the summer they grow from right here. And if you get a flower, you'll actually see a flower forming at the tip. And as you can see, there's no flowers forming on this plant or any of the plants that I've grown from seed. These plants are all in 5-gallon pots using my standard potting mixture, which is 1/4 sand, 1/4 peat moss, 1/4 pumice, and 1/4 1/4-inch fir bark. I am going to transplant 2 of the bigger plants into a 7-gallon pot, which you can see to the left, and maybe that will give these plants a little more growth. This is my largest plant that I'm growing. It's about 5 feet tall, and at the very top of the plant you can see it has some burnt leaf tips. I'm not sure what that's from. I'll pan down, you can see how it looks. Again, it's a very finicky plant. I do have a surprise. I have a Telopea that is blooming, Telopea Forest Fire. Unfortunately, this is not a plant that I grew from seed, but one I bought at the UC Arboretum about 4 years ago. And when I bought it, it was 1 foot tall. It actually bloomed last year and gave me 2 beautiful blooms, as you can see here. This year it's blooming and it's given me 1 beautiful bloom. The plant leaves look a little bit different than the other Telopeas I have, so it is some sort of hybrid. The flowers aren't quite as big as the ones I saw in San Diego, and I'm not sure if that's because it's a hybrid or because it's a smaller plant. Here's a close-up of the flower. Really gorgeous flower. Telopea Forest Fire. This plant is a hybrid, and as you can see, the leaves are definitely more healthy in this plant than my plants. So being a hybrid has made this plant just more vigorous and easy to grow. If you can pick one of these up at the UC Santa Cruz Arboretum, I'd highly recommend it. I mentioned I planted a Telopea in full sun and it promptly died. Well, I planted another one in the ground and it's doing extremely well. This one I put under an oak tree, so it's getting some dapple sun. A big branch from the oak tree fell and hit this plant, and unfortunately it broke the biggest branch that was growing on this Telopea. Hopefully in the next few years I'll get some blooms from this plant. So in conclusion, Telopea are fairly easy to grow from seed, but definitely more finicky when they get older. They can handle full sun in the winter if it's cooler where you live, but in the summer they definitely need shade or dappled sun to grow well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks.